Yes. This is that question.
Call to order of a regular meeting of the Goodyear City Council, 20 March 2006. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation led by Councilmember Antoniak.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in prayer if you wish. Dear Heavenly Father, please give us the insight this evening and wisdom to make decisions reflective of and benefiting Goodyear citizens, businesses, and visitors. Also, protect our city employees, public safety personnel, and our military personnel overseas as they go about their business, serving us in a day-to-day capacity. And last but not least, please bring Sergeant McCall back to a quick recovery and put him back on the job as soon as possible, and let him know that our thoughts and prayers are with him this evening. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. All council members are in attendance. We have the draft minutes of a special meeting held on February 14th, and draft minutes of a special meeting held on the 21st of February, and draft minutes of a special meeting held on 27th February, and draft minutes of a regular meeting held on February 27th. Do you have any comments, changes, corrections? Seeing none, the minutes are approved for filing. We have no expenditures to ratify this evening. Now, we're starting a change on how the council member addressed the public on items of interest and action by that council person. So instead of that being at the end of the meeting, we're going to have it now as part of communications. We've always had communications, but it's been public for the public. Now this is also going to be for the council also. And so give the public a chance to hear what our council people are doing in a very succinct manner. Okay? We'd start with comments, commendations, and presentations by any member of the public, anyone from the public have a comment. Okay? Now I'd like to pass to the council again. This is we will get to a report on current events next, but now does anybody have any commendations or comments they'd like to make?
Yes,
Okay.
make a comment.
Councilmember Scott?
It does pertain to something four members of the council participated in, but I would like to offer, or at least my congratulations, I'm sure the other members of the council feel the same, to three staff people, namely Doreen Watson, Kelly is with us, Kelly Dalton, and Lois Robinson. Without their help and coordinating this effort, I don't know where we'd be now, but we probably would have never gotten back here. They just kept us going in the right direction and on time, and made a very, very pleasant trip out of our trip to the NLC. So for that, I'd like to thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now move to a commendation, a special event.
Were you finished on the report on current events?
No, we have not. Okay, so now we'll move to current events, and we'll ask Councilmember Holland to start off.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you also to those three people, because it turned out to be a really, really good meeting, and since I was kind of a first-timer, I was like listening and trying to gather it all in, and they made it easy for us. I attended two particularly good sessions. There were many, many offered. It was hard to pick which ones would work for us. But I did the performance leader and taking responsibility for results, and also the community branding. Whose job is it? And I'm going to write up my report and turn that in so that all the council people that did not get a chance to go to that particular session could benefit from it.
Councilmember Scott?
Yeah, we really did have some interesting sessions. I'm a newly appointed member of the Energy, Environment, Natural Resources Policy and Advocacy Committee. So I did go to that session, very informative. I think I learned something, and I definitely contributed something, whether they asked for it or not. And,
I believe that.
I also attended a emergency preparedness plan put together by the people from Brunswick, Ohio, based on a couple of flood disasters they had there. This followed right on the heels of what we had just heard here, except it was put to a very practical use. Their entire city professionals was represented there, from their city manager, their fire chief, their police chief, and God knows who else participated in this presentation. It was well done. It was a real disaster plan put into effect. And that's probably going to stay with me a lot longer than a mock type presentation. But anyway, thank God we don't have more real plans to talk about. I also attended a week session. I won't comment on that. And I also attended an effective parliamentary procedure program put on by the same company that's going to come here. I just wanted to see if they had anything new to tell us. And what I learned was this presentation was by a different person from the same company, an entirely different approach to teaching this, but also very effective. So I'm looking forward to their arrival here. I think it's the 7th and 8th of next month. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I think we'll all learn something with regard to parliamentary procedures. Another highlight was, we heard a lot of senators talk, and that was interesting. But being able to listen to the First Lady from the second row in the room was a real pleasure. And almost equal to that was her introduction by a high school young lady from Liberty High School in Clarksburg, West Virginia, who introduced the First Lady. And I asked this young lady, when she got done, if she would please call me in about 10 years, because she's going places. I'd just like to see where she is in about 10 years. Excellent, excellent presentation. The First Lady said this was the best presentation she had ever been given. I think that's a correct statement from those that were there. And I could go on and on about this, but I'll stop there and let some of my colleagues talk about their experiences.
I'll give it to the young one first.
Councilmember Antonia?
Giving it to me first. Well, since the others mentioned the classes they went through, I attended a building public trust through performance, and then another one about leading effective strategic communications, and two courses that I attended those days. But I'll tell you what I took back most from DC was the ability for our staff to effectively and efficiently do a job that we need done, which is communicate to our federal officials what we need on a local level. And Kelly and Jareen both have done that very, very well. It opened doors for all four of us and the entire delegation while we were back there. They proved to us that they were able to think on their feet, because we had some changes as we went about those meetings in terms of some direction and some feelings we were getting from the staff and from some of the officials back there, specifically on I-10. So we were excited to see them in action, and excited to see the positive, hopefully positive results that will come. I will at least firsthand speak to I-10. There's no doubt that there's a long road to hoe here, and there's obviously some benchmark things that we've had happen on the state level, but to keep on encouraging, whether that's the public or whether that's us here in the room, keep encouraging those federal officials about the I-10 expansion and the importance that holds to us in the West Valley. So, but it was a great opportunity to have a very open and candid dialogue on those issues.
Well, I'd just like to thank everybody for the opportunity. It was a great opportunity. I, like many of the others, took a course. My courses were in negotiation skills and strategies, and the other one was in managing communications. It was a great opportunity, and again, I want to thank the staff. We were able to have a one-on-one I had with Senator McCain. We talked with Kyle, and we talked with Trent Franks, and so to have us all go in and be able to have that personal contact to let them know how important certain issues are, and particularly one we were emphasizing was the I-10. So I was encouraged. Probably the only office I was not encouraged was Trent Frank's office. So any of you out there that want the expansion of this I-10, then that's the person you need to send some emails to, because we're not number one on his list. But Kyle and McCain were certainly in our camp. And again, the last thing I'd like to say, and I know this is out of order somewhat, Mayor, but I'd like to wish our city manager a happy birthday, because I believe this is his special day today. And I was going to suggest we sing to you, but I got vetoed on that. So we're just going to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you. We've already sung to him.
Yes, Councilmember Souza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to report of our results. CDGB, as a representative of Goodyear before the county organization, we were nip and tuck in negotiations. We're going to have a limited budget this year because of the funds that are coming from Washington and from the county. This is what we were able to gain for the city of Goodyear. We have three to four homes for rehabilitation, amounting to $90,000. And we originally requested $500,000 for infrastructure for the area within historic Goodyear for redevelopment, and ended up getting $350,000 of the 500, which I felt was good negotiations. So we are in kind toward this project of $25,000. So it's we gained $440,000. In our meeting as a representative for historic Goodyear, as a representative of the council, there were many concerns brought before the various representatives of the city of Goodyear. Various department members were there. Community initiatives was hit pretty strong, and the police department again was up to par in meeting the questions that were put to us about the amount of coverages that we're giving that particular area. Crime is down in that area only because of the diligence of the police department, and that was proven during the course of this evening. Everybody seems to be happy at the present time, but that's only for a moment in that area. Those folks are very demanding, and rightfully so. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, just quickly, the spring training, we're moving ahead on that, certainly making progress. We're right now attempting to have one or two landowners come forward and work with us on their particular piece of land to use for the stadium. So we have a way to go yet, but we're making progress. The RFI request for information from the schools for higher education in Goodyear is moving ahead, and we're getting interest from colleges throughout the country, actually. So we might have a real winner there. We hope so. I-10 is moving forward on the 4th of April. We expect that the four councils will meet in a joint session and approve a resolution in which we would, at least in Goodyear, we would tap our general fund to assist in the payment of carrying costs and therefore widen I-10, accelerate that by 4 years. One of the major sources of funds within the general fund is construction sales tax. There's an effort right now underway within the state legislature, started by the Home Builders Association, to reduce our ability to collect construction sales tax. If they're successful, then I-10 widening becomes very dubious. And I would encourage the home builders to take that back to your organization. We simply need those construction sales tax to widen that road. And lastly, the assessment of management, which we've been talking about for a couple of years, is now out there. It's on the street. We talked to 14 potential consultants or contractors who would perform that assessment today, answered all their questions. So we're moving ahead with that. According to Bob Carrier, who's our contracts person, they had 100 downloads on that. So it's apparently the greatest response to a contract RFP we've had. So there's a lot of people interested in doing this, and we'll see if we can come to a conclusion before the end of the fiscal year to get them working. Okay? All right, thank you. Now it's opportunity for the city manager. Any update?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, a couple of points. This particular evening is the first evening we kick off the Granicus, where you are live on the internet. So everything that's being discussed here, people can see on internet, watch the entire program, and all the information is available to them. So basically what you see on the cameras is what also the public is going to be seeing and hearing. Secondly, would like to thank everybody, council members, for the support you gave to staff in making the legislative impact that you did to the congressional delegation. It will have long-term implications and benefits to the I-10 corridor and our ability to widen that roadway. Thirdly, Jim Nichols has a introduction to make tonight. Jim?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you all to our new Water Resources Director. Sean Bradford joins us from Massachusetts. Started last week, and as of today, he has completed NEO. He formerly was a manager with Aquarian Water in Massachusetts, and he takes over a great water resources department. Great team. I do want to also acknowledge Charles McDowell, who's been serving as the interim director for the past 6 months. Really appreciate all the help and hard work Charles has put in. But in the meantime, I'm going to give Sean the opportunity to introduce himself and let you meet him in person. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'd just like to say that I'm very appreciative of the opportunity. I look forward to working with Council and with staff and meeting the needs of the city regarding water and wastewater. And just short, I guess, that's all. Thank you.
Welcome
Thank
aboard.
you.
To continue my report, there was an event this weekend. It was called the Battle of the Bands. And staff asked that I summarize basically that over 350 teens joined together to observe 3 bands square off at the first annual event, the Battle of the Bands, held at Millennium High School. A number of students, along with other people, served as the judges, and from the 3 bands that were present there, they selected Captain Squeegee and the Soapsuds. This band will play at the Goodyear Springs Spectacular April 8th at the community park. So stay tuned and bring your towels. In addition, I had this past week had an opportunity to join Maricopa Association of Government staff, County Department of Environmental Quality staff, their environmental quality staff, and representatives from Sand and Rock Products, along with individuals from the Associated General Contractors. We went to Park County, Nevada, had some discussions with them on what are they doing that is enabling them to be in compliant with the PM10 regulations, which is the particulates. The outcome of that is a lot of data, a lot of information sharing during the day-long session that we spent this past Friday. And with that information, I think that you're going to see the county and MAG staff and the various organizations that are impacted on a daily basis. It's the particulate matter that's hanging in the air that's impacting our health and puts us in a non-compliant status. So stay tuned on that. We'll bring you additional reports as we can. 2 additional comments. One, the meeting on April 4th is at Estrella Mountain Community College. It's at the large community room, and that starts at 7 p.m. on the 4th with the 4 cities. The last comment is that the I-10 widening process, as we move forward on that, this past week we received the final design recommendation from the committee that will go April 21st to the State Department of Transportation at their April 21st meeting. That over $7 million will be available to help in doing the design to allow us to expedite the construction of the I-10 and move it up by several years. So we look forward to having that opportunity to have that money come in. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll now move, well, are there any, I had on my note here, any update of legislative issues?
But not at this time.
Okay. Now's an opportunity for any citizen to comment to the council on any subject which is not on this evening's agenda. Would any member of the public wish to make a comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the consent agenda, and I'll ask the city clerk to read the items by title only, please.
Item 8A, council will consider approving an amendment in the amount of $31,860 to the professional services agreement with Durant Architects for the Joint Police Fire Administration Study to include a municipal court study and conceptual master plan component. Item B, council will consider awarding a construction contract in the amount of $4,856,102 to Valley Rain Construction Corporation for the construction of Phase 2 of Goodyear Community Park, located in the vicinity of Litchfield Road and Thomas Road, including bid alternative number 2 skate park, and authorize a transfer of funds in the amount of $700,000. Item C, council will consider approving the participation agreement Indian School Road improvements between the City of Goodyear and Syncor Development Company for the construction of a third travel lane in each direction and rubberized asphalt concrete paving over the westbound pavement surface of the Indian School Road improvements, which are generally located between Cedarville Avenue and Wigwam Boulevard. The city's responsibility is $534,603. Item D, council will consider awarding a professional services contract in the amount of $120,250 to Bernard Douche Associates Incorporated to perform a citywide facilities master plan study. Item E, council will consider approving an intergovernmental agreement with Maricopa County Human Services Division to continue providing special transportation services free of charge for qualified elderly, low-income, and disabled residents of Goodyear through June 30, 2008. Item F, council will consider approving an IGA with the City of Avondale, who acts as the fiscal and responsible agent for the Avondale urbanized area, to accept payments for Goodyear's prorated cost of operation for the transit services provided by the City of Phoenix for Route 131, which is the START project for July 2005 through June 30, 2006. G, council will consider accepting a warranty deed from Standard Pacific of Arizona Incorporated, conveying a 0.287 acre well site on the proposed Parada development, generally located at the northwest corner of Citrus Road and Lower Buckeye Road. Item H, council will consider adopting ordinance 2006-979, amending section 6-3-2, parking space allocation requirements of Article 6, off-street parking and loading of the zoning ordinance of the City of Goodyear, Arizona, to provide for a new parking standard for large warehouse distribution facilities, providing separability and providing for an effective date. Item I, council will consider adopting ordinance 2006-984, amending section 5-1-2, maintenance of the Article 5-1, landscaping standards of the zoning ordinance of the City of Goodyear, Arizona, to clarify the maintenance responsibility for landscaping installed in the right-of-way for arterial and secondary or collector roadways, providing separability and providing for an effective date. J, council will consider authorizing city manager to award contract CON-CX 0383-A2-06, an amendment of CON-CX 0383-05 with Intelligent Water Solutions for the lease of a wellhead treatment system at well site 12B in the amount of not to exceed $260,000 in the first term. The term of this contract may be renewed at 12 months intervals for a total of 48 months at a cost not to exceed $540,000 per year. The system will produce 800 GPM of potable water that meets all regulatory standards. The council authorizes city manager to execute all documents. Item K, council will consider accepting the dedication of sewer line easements and temporary construction easements and approve a license agreement to be used for the construction of a sewer truck line generally located between the Cotton Lane and Elwood Street intersection to Lower Buckeye Road on the north and along the west side of Cotton Lane.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone in the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Would anyone on council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Councilmember Scott?
I'd like to remove item B, B as in boy.
Okay. 8B is to be removed. Is there any others?
Can I ask a question on one?
Yes, sir.
Would you rather do? Just on item I. And I apologize for asking this, but does this affect current? The landscaping? I'm looking for Joe. There he is. Does not affect current. This is future. Okay.
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilman Antoniak, it is intended to be implemented prospectively, not retroactively.
Is there, this item B that Councilman Scott would like to remove, is it possible to put that at the end of the agenda so that we can, I think there's going to be a long discussion on this one.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
I'm sorry, could we put this at the end of the business agenda, since it should be a long discussion and there's other items with a lot of people are waiting to discuss other items?
Well, I don't think we have to make it a long discussion, but can we have a crack at it and see where we go?
Sure. Why don't we have a crack and see where it goes? We may want it in a work session later, too. There's a lot of issues here.
There are a lot of issues.
Okay, so we'll pull it, and then we'll start with Councilmember Scott on it, okay? But let's pull it first. So now we have, can I have a motion then, please, to approve consent agenda items 8A, C through K?
So moved. Second.
A motion from Vice Mayor Cavalier and a second from Councilmember Antoniak. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cavalier,
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa,
Aye.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I think it's done. French, it's done. Yep, you got it. Okay, so now we're on the North Park. Okay, so if you would, Councilmember Scott.
Yeah. I just have to start this with a few comments here and then a suggestion. We as a council have had a problem with three issues regarding this, three major issues. I am not convinced in my mind that they came to a reasonable explanation. There's still one hanging out there that we never had any explanation on, I believe, and that's the parking situation. We certainly had a lot of discussion about the skate park versus bike park, and we did come to an agreement on that. That could present a little bit of controversy here, because I'd like to include that in my packet here in just a little bit. The next issue that's being brought before us today is a deletion of this splash park. I really think we need a lot more than discussion this evening. I think we need a work session to clarify these issues. I think we really have to have a work session and go into some depth with regard to the issues that I mentioned, and it should be discussed in front of engineers or architects that are well informed with regard to these issues. I would also, if we bring this to a work session, like to have a representative or two from Maricopa County who decided that the splash park was not a good idea for us. Because I have some very serious questions to ask this person, and they have certainly not been addressed in this in the presentation this evening. So, if I may be at this time permitted to, I would like to make a motion. Is that acceptable now?
Yes, it is.
I'd like to make a motion that we have a work session on these on this phase 2 of the community park, and include at least the items that I just outlined with the expertise present to discuss this in detail with us. That's the motion.
Okay, second. A motion for postponement to include a work session.
Right.
Second motion from Councilmember Scott, second from Councilmember Sousa. It's open for discussion. Again, the motion is to postpone and work session. Okay?
My question is to Councilman Scott. You mentioned that there might be some conversations or some concern about the bike park as well.
Well, the only reason I throw that out with a question mark, council member, is that this council accepted the startup jointly with a skate park and a bike park, and we did vote on that, and we did accept that. And with the permission of the council, and we really need permission of the council since that was accepted, I'd like to include that as one of the items to be reviewed, but only with permission of the council. I don't want that to hold up a work session, is what I'm saying.
I think it's a good idea to include it, though, if you have some questions.
Oh, I think it's a great idea to include it, but I don't know if we can do that without permission from the council.
We need 2 people who voted. It was a 4-3 vote. We need 2 of the 4 to ask for reconsideration. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you'll need someone who is in the minority to make the motion, and then you'll need a majority vote.
Is that?
It's 2 separate motions, though, right?
Well, what was the motion to reconsider?
If you're talking about reconsideration of a past vote, that's different than the work session motion.
I think that Councilmember Antoniak is right on target here. This is where I was going. If we can create a work session based on the 2 items and other things that haven't been discussed, if necessary, and then another motion regarding the skate park and bike park, I think that would be a parliamentary way of going about this.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this just for clarification of our discussion that night and to find
Well,
out?
it's for a lot of discussion.
I'm talking about the BMX. Okay, okay, not the other. I agree with you on the other. I'm just
I think,
I'm just concerned because it was voted on and people were here and they stated their their cause.
My only concern about that, and I voted for it to go ahead with it.
Yeah.
My concern is we arrived at this decision with input from a lot of people in this room. But I've never heard from an engineer or architectural expert in this area to really give us guidance. If there was somebody in the audience, they were very quiet because I never heard it.
Well, I agree with you on that aspect of it. I don't think we were really given concrete information, and I was concerned about it. I thought that they should be able to tell us a little bit more what the cost would be and what the breakdown would be with the two entities using the skate park. That I agree upon. More information. I'm not so sure I agree on going back on our vote that we actually.
See, that's my concern. That's my real concern. And if we make a motion. If we exclude that from my motion, and then we make a separate motion, then we can vote on it.
Mr. Mayor, but just as a matter of timing, it behooves us to go ahead and have a work session about it, and if we learn new information about that decision, then to have the motion to reconsider at that point in time, at that juncture, once we've learned new information, rather than go through the throes of debating this issue this evening when the representation of those folks aren't here.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay. So I'm all in favor. Let's have a work session. We haven't heard from staff on this at all yet, but we can.
So you're in favor of having a work session
Sure.
to include this for discussion, even though we've already arrived at a conclusion?
I think the splash park alone warrants conversation. I think there's some expectations out there in the public that need to be discussed and need to be brought to light.
As long as you're willing to have the discussion.
Conversation is acceptable.
Councilmember Souza?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But you agree that we can bring concerns up regarding the bike park as a part of the work session?
No, I think we need legal input on that. That's a question I have too. I'm hoping we can.
The reason I'm asking that is there's been some revelations in newspaper articles about the method used by the group that promoted the bike park, and I'm concerned about this, the pressure that exerted by this group, and whether or not they totally represent the number of kids that raised their hands here who said that they were members of the Goodyear community. And I'm concerned about that. And that is what I would like to bring out during the course of this meeting.
Can we have a work session and discuss an item in which we previously made a decision?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, believe you certainly can have the work session. You certainly can talk about the issue of the construction contract to the extent that the bike park is a component of that. I believe you can discuss it. To reconsider your previous action, you'll certainly need to make another motion and revisit that issue. I think that's kind of a separate matter that wouldn't be addressed at the work session anyhow.
Yeah, if in fact during the work session we find that we'd like to possibly readdress it, then it would have to go to the next council meeting.
It would need to be posted, and we need to look at our rules of procedure.
That's fine, isn't it? So why don't we leave this evening's motion to a single motion to go into a work session and discuss North Park? Is that correct?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay? Okay, any further discussion?
I got one question for staff, if I can.
Sure.
How does this delay, if any, does it affect the bid schedules, and can you give us a fiscal impact if we're...
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Antonia, it'll delay the start of construction and, of course, the completion of construction. We did come prepared tonight to discuss the splash park, if you'd like to, because some new things have occurred since we wrote the COAC.
Well, we need a work session, and we'll do it at the work session if that's what the council votes for. And then I hope if there's an adverse decision or decision like stated in our COAC, then I hope we have representation from the county here to defend that position.
Councilmember Scott, we met with the county last week, and some things did come out of that meeting that we could discuss at work session or tonight if we choose.
Why don't we go for the work session then, because there are subjects we want to discuss. Okay? All those in favor of the motion to postpone this consent item 8B
When are we talking? Work session?
and have a work session?
Can we get an idea of timelines?
We're going to have one.
Right. 2 weeks is a whole lot different than 3 months.
Yeah. And not only that, you need to have if you're going to postpone, you have to postpone to a definite date. So do we have a date for a work session?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you do have a meeting April 3rd, which is a scheduled Monday meeting. There's no work session preceding the 27th meeting, so you could have it on either day.
Okay, would you be ready down on the 27th?
We're ready now, but the 27th is fine.
No, I think we want to talk parking, want to talk Ramadas.
Sure.
You moved in the fence on the outfield. We want to talk
Absolutely.
the park and BMX and skate park, okay? So on the 27th,
Do you believe it's going to take more than 1 hour?
I don't think so.
Not if we have the appropriate people there. I don't
The
think so.
information is there.
Okay, 5 o'clock.
Okay? So we'll meet, assuming this motion passes, we'll meet on the 27th at 5 p.m.
Okay,
for
thank
a work
you.
session. So again, the motion is to postpone the action for 8B, and before it is rescheduled for a meeting, we will meet in a work session on the 27th of March. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to our business part of our agenda, and 9A has been postponed. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Wright, I have a question on this postponement.
Postponed again?
How many postponements can we have on this one item?
Well, every time it's been postponed, it's been because of the applicant, correct?
Yes.
They requested it. I'm not sure there's a limit there.
Well, I tell you, I'm coming to my limits on this.
Is that a question? I think I expressed some of the same frustrations when I heard about that as well, but I think there's a due process element that we want to afford the applicant. Perhaps that thread is getting a bit thin. We can certainly endeavor to get him at the next meeting, but I realize and recognize there's been many postponements, but given the nature of this issue and the sensitivity involved, I don't think I would recommend at this time moving on without him. But we can certainly maybe forward a strongly worded letter that the next time is going to be it, if that meets the council's acceptance.
So there's no dialogue that's been going on between Southwest and the staff during these periods of time? Is it just? No. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to 9B. Thank you for your explanation. And David Ramirez, talking about an IGA with Maricopa Flood Control on the Bullard Wash.
Mr. Mayor and council members, tonight before you is a IGA for Bullard Wash. Up on the screen shows the limits of the issue along Bullard Wash from I-10 south, approximately 2 3/4 miles to the Lower Buckeye Road alignment.
Can you hit focus on that? Sorry, changes it at all.
I think I need glasses.
Not sure I can focus it any better than that. The IGA is follow-up to a previous IGA, which had to do with the design of Bullard Wash. The Bullard Wash project is a joint project between the City of Goodyear and Flood Control District. We're basically 50% partners in that effort. Tonight, the IGA covers basically the implementation of the design, which would include the right-of-way acquisition necessary to construct, utility relocation, construction and construction management, as well as the operation and maintenance of the completed facility.
David, for the benefit of everyone, why don't you identify the boundaries of the project? North to south.
The northern boundary is I-10, and the southern boundary is Lower Buckeye Road alignment. There's not a road there currently. At that location, it ties into a previously constructed segment of Bullard Wash, which was completed back in the late 90s. This project would connect to that point and then run, as I said, up to I-10. The corridor is a approximately 300-foot wide floodway. There are two concepts, very similar, but there are a little bit of differences. And I'll put a couple of construction drawings up on the screen to depict the differences. Hopefully these are more legible. A little bit more. This is actually a construction drawing from the approved set of plans for Bullard Wash. It's representative of the Greenbelt concept between I-10 and Yuma Road. Essentially, it's a 300-foot wide corridor. It's primarily turfed or grassed from edge to edge. I've shaded in three different components of the cross-section. The orange on either side of the wash is approximately 300 feet wide, represent O&M roads to allow service vehicles as well as emergency vehicles to respond. The yellow represents a 10-foot wide concrete multi-use pathway, primarily running along the bottom of the wash. However, at several points, it does come up the side slope and connect to the access road, and it also comes up. There's a connection point to Van Buren, which is this location here. The other cross section that I'll put up, basically it's a small difference, but it's representative of the cross section between Yuma and Lower Buckeye Road. The main difference is the bottom and coming up the side slopes are turf, but at that point, coming up the balance of the side slope up to the O&M road, it's a DG cross section, or actually a DG surface. And the reason for that is basically to reduce water consumption in this reach of Bullard Wash. I didn't mention it on the other cross section, but the blue is a low flow channel which conveys nuisance water as well as irrigation tailwater flow through the project, so as not to cause areas of the bottom to be continually inundated with tailwater flows. This is a concrete lined channel to convey that flow. I'll just go over briefly the responsibilities that are addressed in this IGA. The Flood Control District will take the lead in the construction of the channel portion, whereas the city will take the lead in the construction of two bridges, one at Van Buren and Yuma Road. the city is responsible for the cost of any utility relocation, which is not the responsibility of the private utility company where they do not have prior rights. Flood control will take the lead as well as construction management. And upon completion of the project, the city will take ownership of the channel and be responsible for ongoing O&M. Approximate cost is $15.2 million to be split on a 50% basis between the county and the city. There's one feature of the IGA that's, I think, is kind of a nice feature for the city's standpoint. The city basically has taken the lead on the right-of-way acquisition, where it will be dedicated by adjacent development on either side of the wash. And once this IGA is in place, any dedications that are acquired by the city, we will have the opportunity to secure an appraisal of the value of the property, and upon approval of the appraisal by Flood Control District, they will credit that value against the city's share of the cost up to 15% of the total cost of the project. So, in other words, if the project is estimated $15.2 million, 15% of that is, I don't have the exact figure, but it's around $2.5 million. So if we're able to secure dedications of right-of-way to construct this and can demonstrate that the value is equal to that much money, we get a direct credit against our construction costs. So the shift will actually be in our favor. Less of the construction will be our responsibility, and more of the construction cost will be the Flood Control District's responsibility. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Seeing none, could I ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only, please?
Resolution 2006-1033, a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the City of Goodyear authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Flood Control District of Maricopa County for the right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, construction management, operation, and maintenance of the Bullard Wash Improvements Project, which is Lower Buckeye Road to I-17.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion?
Motion to accept resolution number 2006-1033 as read by the clerk.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Scott and a second from Councilmember Holland. It's now open for discussion. Seeing none, could we have a... Okay, let's start with... Okay, I'm getting Vice Mayor and then Councilmember.
Question I have. This will tie into the part of the canal that's already, or the area that's already developed at Lower Buckeye Road on down to the river. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what is there now does not have the green. Will that be a change in the way it will be constructed at that point? I mean, will this be an abrupt change in the looks of this from that point down, and we'll have the trail system? Will that trail system be put in there, and all the details that go along with it to connect to this?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Cavalier, that is correct. It is an earthen channel that we're proposing tonight that will run north. What was constructed in the late 90s was more of a structural cross-section. It involved gabions, which are basically rocks contained in the bank protection. So the pathway, or the multi-use path, will connect from this new portion through what was constructed in the first phase.
Because the only pathway that's there now is, I believe, the path that goes down under the bridge and over the top to the airport area. Is that not correct?
That is correct. I believe that there will need to be some further improvements to that first reach in order to bring it all the way to
the other side of MC-85. Will that continue on to the park and to the river?
That is the.
I mean, the channel, I know it does, but will the pathway and all of the design elements, will they be included?
That is the idea. Although it's not covered with this action tonight, it is the idea to carry the multi-use path as well as the equestrian all the way to the Gila River.
And that was my next question. There will be an equestrian path through the green belt area.
Yes, there will be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Souza?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. David, is this a CIP project?
Yes, it is. It is a CIP.
So it will become out of CIP fund?
That is correct.
The 7.6 million?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor brought up a question in my mind. Are we, we're talking about trails here, but we aren't right now within this particular IGA or funding included. Are we including requirements for any recreational activities like T-ball or something like that?
Mayor Kavanaugh, this particular IGA doesn't address that. The design that was completed does allow for areas to be developed in the future by the city. That type of development wasn't within the framework of the type of improvements that the flood control district supports, so it would be a follow-up project by the city.
Okay, thank you. Okay, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Cavalier,
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa,
Aye.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Lord,
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to the use permit for Church's Chicken Drive-Thru and Joe Schmitz.
Mayor and council members, this is a use permit that's been requested to allow a Church's Chicken Restaurant with a drive-through lane on .32 acres that's located in a general commercial district within a project that is known as Central Marketplace at the northwest corner of Central Avenue and Van Buren Street. The proposal is for a restaurant building to be constructed that would have approximately 2,040 square feet in size and have indoor restaurant seating in addition to the proposed drive-through component. The restaurant would be located on a commercial pad at the front of the Central Marketplace site, and it would have parking associated with the restaurant as indicated in the site plan that was enclosed with your packet. The tentative elevations for the structure have been provided. Staff has found the conceptual development plans provide for adequate traffic access, queuing lanes, and pedestrian circulation for the proposed drive-through restaurant. Although the approval of the use permit does not constitute approval of the site plan, the application would still have to be submitted and gone through administrative review of the site plan. A citizen review meeting was held prior to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and there were no one in attendance at that. Planning and Zoning Commission conducted a hearing on February 15th and recommended approval of the use permit by a vote of 6-0 and subject to the two steps that are outlined at the on the information in your agenda packet. That concludes my presentation, unless you have any questions for me.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments from the applicant?
Mayor and Council, my name is Ben Stolke, address 4041 North Central Avenue. I think they did a good job of presenting the building. I think the building's going to be an asset to the development. The architecture is very much in compliance with what the shopping center is like, and my client's very anxious to get started. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, could I ask for motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move the council approve a use permit to allow a convenience use Church's Chicken Restaurant with drive-through lane on a 0.32 acre parcel within the general commercial district, generally located 500 feet west of the northwest corner of Central Avenue and Van Buren Street in the Central Marketplace Commercial Center, subject to the stipulation that
Second.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Susan, a second from Councilmember Scott. It's open for discussion. Councilmember Souza.
Mr. Smith, please. Can you give the council the direction, the entry of the drive-through and how it proceeds through the property, please?
There are two entry points from Van Buren Street, one at this location and a second one at this location. Traffic would basically circulate through the site and enter the drive-in lane at the back of the restaurant, and then circulate through on the west side of the building, and then exit back out toward the main driveway.
And this will in no way interfere with the traffic that could be created by the proposed auto center to the west of that property?
Councilman Souza, there would be a solid median wall along this side that would prevent any vehicles from entering or exiting from this driveway. So we don't believe it would interfere at all.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. We'll now move to preliminary plat for La Jolla Vista, and Steve?
I'm sorry, Mr. Kretschy is not
I'm sorry,
available
I'll pull
tonight.
that, Joe. Joe, you got it.
You're stuck with me. Mayor and Council, this is a request for preliminary plat approval to subdivide approximately 198 acres into 384 single-family residential lots, 19 tracts, 2 court home parcels, and an elementary school site, facilitate a project known as La Jolla Vista. The property is located essentially at the northeast corner of Citrus Road and Lower Buckeye Road. It extends north along Citrus Road up to Durango Street, and then in an easterly direction over to south 173rd, adjacent to the proposed Sinaloa subdivision. We have the existing Cotton Flower subdivision to the northeast, the Sweetwater Estates project to the north, and the Cotton Commons project, proposed project to the south of the site. The PAD for La Jolla Vista was approved by the City Council along with a pre-annexation development agreement in October of 2005. You may also recall that this project the developer of this project is a participant in the West Goodyear MOU regarding wastewater development. From the original PAD document, you may recall that in terms of land use, there are 6 residential parcels and an elementary school site. It's anticipated that a total of 690 residential units will be developed, resulting in a gross density of 3.48 or a net density of 3.87. We have 2 areas that would be developed with lots that are 70 by 125, and then these areas would be lots that are 60 by 120. Court home sites are located at the southwest portion of the site and the southeast corner of the site. There's a combination school park site which includes a total of 20 acres. Development will have entries from Citrus Road, Lower Buckeye, and 173rd Avenue, as you can see on the concept plan. The project proposes approximately 28 acres of open space. 19 acres would be for designated for active use. And there are a number of amenities proposed within the project. Water and sewer service will be provided by the City of Goodyear, as I indicated earlier, pursuant to the development agreement that was entered into. Although the target density is 2 units per acre for the site, an increase in the base density to 2.85 was permitted for developments that participated in the West Goodyear Sewer MOU. The increase in density that exceeds the new base level is justified based upon the amount of open space and amenities being provided, plus the reservation of a school site of approximately 11.5 acres and an adjoining 8.6 acre park site for a total of 20.1 acres. In terms of citizen review on this, a preliminary plat is not required to go through the citizen review process. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered this item at its regular meeting on February 15th. Items of discussion included provision of open space and changes to stipulations number 15 and 42. Stipulation 15 has been amended to clarify the need for future traffic signals, while stipulation number 42 was amended to exclude the elementary school and park site from maintenance by the HOA. The Commission voted 6-0 to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council, and the recommendation is subject to the 51 stipulations that are outlined in your agenda packet. That concludes my presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the applicant?
Mayor, Council, Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. As you probably recall, and as Joe indicated, your council has seen this development on 2 prior occasions. Once was in May of last year when you approved the MOU for a large area, and again in October when you approved the pre-annexation, the annexation, and the final PAD. It's the same development today as it was then. We accept the 51 stipulations that are in your COAC, and we request your approval in accordance with the Commission and staff recommendations.
Thank you, sir. Comments from the public? Could I have a motion, please?
I move the City Council approve the preliminary plat from Westpac Development Corporation to subdivide approximately 198.5 acres into 384 single-family residential lots, 19 tracts, 2 court home parcels, and an elementary school site to facilitate development of a project known as La Jolla Vista, located at the northeast corner of Citrus Road and Lower Buckeye Road, within the La Jolla Vista Planned Area Development, subject to the following stipulations.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Lord and a second from Councilmember Scott. Open for discussion. Vice Mayor?
Yes, on stipulation 46, I'd like to have more detail on what we mean by the pedestrian access, and are there any sidewalks in this development other than that? How detailed? I don't see any detail here on pedestrian walkways throughout the parcel and to the school site, rather than the one directly to the site and to the residential area. Within the residential area, are those sidewalks? Will there be sidewalks along the streets?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Vice Mayor Cavalier, there definitely will be sidewalks along the streets. The stipulation of 46 was required in response to a considerable amount of discussion that was held with the residents of Sweetwater Estates, whether or not Durango Street should have been constructed and a connection made to it from the development. The residents in the Sweetwater Estates subdivision made it very clear that they did not want vehicular access to come to Durango Street from this project. However, it was felt that because there was going to be a school site in this part of the project, that pedestrian access should be maintained so that children in this area would at least have the opportunity to walk to the school site.
So that's a pedestrian access in that open, or that open area between Durango Street. The dotted line represents a pedestrian.
That's correct, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Councilmember Souza?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Smith, two questions. Number one, the question regarding open space by the commission, what was their concern in that?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Souza, my recollection is that the Commission Member Osborne raised a question of whether or not either of the open space areas was large enough for a soccer field, and wanted to make, and so there was some discussion about the size of the open space areas. There is, of course, a park site that is anticipated to be developed in here in conjunction with the school, and a tentative site plan that Mr. Bull just gave me has been prepared, which could accommodate play fields. My recollection is that the question was satisfactorily answered at the time.
And hers was one of the yes votes?
Yes.
It was unanimous?
It was unanimous.
Now, the property that's to the south of that, the two parcels,
to the south of?
To the south of La Jolla Vista, there's two vacant properties there.
Are you referring to these parcels?
Right there, yeah, those two pieces. Have they been annexed yet?
They're not annexed yet, no. We have received some preliminary development proposals on the parcels, but they have not been ready to bring forward yet.
So if there were any objections to that property, we have to address them at the time that property is purchased, or it's annexed to the city, right?
That would have to be evaluated at that time. Yeah. I would point out, of course, it is across Lower Buckeye Road, which is considered a major arterial roadway as well.
I don't want to run into the same situation that we find that, we're getting objections to the Sweetwater Estates, and I'm concerned about that, they don't want things going in there. Are we going to run into the same situation with that property south of this property?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Souza, it's often hard to predict whether we'll run into problems in the future, but I don't recall if we have a stipulation in here regarding any kind of posting of the site. It is a court home parcel, which the density is about 8 units per acre, which typically is 0 lot line or maybe some modified attached. It's not what you would consider high density per se or apartment type development.
Okay. Well, if it does come up, we can address it at that time. I'm just concerned about it, though. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Last item on tonight's business agenda is the preliminary plat for Coronado Village Phase 2, and Farhad, you got it.
Mayor Kavanaugh, Vice Mayor Cavalier, council members. The item before you is a request for a preliminary plat for a 161-acre area in Phase 2 of Estrella Mountain Ranch. More specifically, this request is for preliminary plat of Coronado Village, Phase 2. The item, the area is about 3/4 of a mile south of the existing terminus for Estrella Parkway, which is roughly, if I can focus this right, well, just a little bit north beyond this map. This is, incidentally, is the existing alignment of Westgard Drive, which contains Gulf Village. Now, Phase 1 of Coronado Village was approved in January, I'm speaking of the final plats, January of this year, which included 10 parcels. The preliminary plat request involves the second phase of the development, and this is the key map on the cover sheet of the applicant's preliminary plat. You can see here the alignment of Estrella Parkway. Phase one involved an area, of course, well, this is phase two. Phase one would be to the north. I should add that phase one did involve a section of Calistoga, which is the interior loop road, connecting Estrella Parkway to the north to Cotton Lane to the south, down here. Phase two, this preliminary plat, does include the balance of Calistoga Road, the remaining balance. Additionally, it includes 7 parcels, totaling exactly, as far as this preliminary plat is concerned, 388 single-family lots, 52 tracts, and as I mentioned, the balance of Calistoga Drive. Lots would consist of single-family residential lots, ranging anywhere between 7,500 square feet or 60 by 120 lots, if you prefer, and as big as 75 by 135, or a little over 10,000 square feet. This phase of the development will consist of 19% open space, of which 36% would be usable. This includes 3 tot lots, as well as a few open space corridors and a 10-acre park located adjacent to the school site. Staff is recommending approval of this preliminary plat request as it does conform with the general plan. Just as importantly, it conforms with the PAD amendment that was approved for this phase of Estrella Mountain Ranch back in August of 2004. As such, we are recommending approval. Staff is recommending approval contingent on the 29 stipulations before you, the vast majority of which echo the stipulations that were included with the PAD amendment in 2004. That concludes my comments. Ed Bull is here representing Newland Communities as well, and I'm sure he would like to address you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Bull?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne, representing Newland. You've seen this site multiple times in the past as well. Appreciate your prior approvals of the PAD and the prior plats. As Farhad indicated, this is absolutely in accordance with other approvals that the Council and Commission have provided. There's 29 stipulations. Newland accepts all of them. There's lots of design features in the plat that are consistent with what the city encourages. So if you have questions, we'll try to answer them. Otherwise, we're comfortable with the Commission and staff recommendations and hope that you are as well, and ask your approval accordingly.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Could I have a motion, please?
I move City Council approve preliminary plat for Coronado Village Phase 2, subdividing 161 acres into 388 single-family residential lots, generally located on the west side of Estrella Parkway, approximately 3/4 of a mile south of West Star Drive, in the amended planned area development district for Villages 7 and Villages 9 of the Estrella Mountain Ranch, Phase 2, subject to the stipulations.
Second. I have a motion from Councilmember Lord and a second from Councilmember Antoniak. It's open for discussion. Councilmember Scott?
Yeah, we've gone through this a couple of times before. You're absolutely right, Ed, but just for the record, show me where the fire station proposed fire station is going to be here.
Mayor, council members, I'm not sure if I know the precise location.
Well, that's important because my next question is going to rest on your knowing that.
Well, I'm not sure if there's a representative of the fire department who might be able to address that. Go ahead.
Mayor and Council, this map with north being up identify, this is Estrella Parkway, this is the Cotton Lane alignment.
Right.
The preliminary plat that we're talking about is in this area, and the next fire station location, my understanding, is right in this area on the north side of Cotton Lane.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we've talked about before. And Bill, can you give us an idea of the response time from that point to the furthest point in this development?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Scott, I apologize. I have no information with me tonight about the exact response times in this area. Have you forward that information on, we'll have something for council right away.
Okay, thanks, Bill. No further questions?
That be provided later?
Yes, sir.
Okay, further questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. Well, now we're just down to a couple items. Ask for the summary of follow-up action.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, 2 items. Earlier, the council action was to have a work session on the 27th at 5 p.m. to discuss issues associated with the Goodyear North Community Park. And secondly, we'll add this last request in terms of response time information related to the Coronado Village and surrounding properties from the fire station at approximately Calistoga and Cotton Lane intersection.
Okay. Council agree with that then?
Yes.
Okay, it's time for council members to express any inquiry of staff. I'd just like to ask one, Mr. Cleveland, if the council agrees with me. I was out looking at some new homes the other day, and I noticed that there's some spec homes out there now. That didn't hear of that 6 months ago. And I think there's about 1,000 homes in Goodyear that are on the resale market right now, and I may be a little low on that. But our financial capability is largely, or not largely, but very dependent on construction sales tax and accumulation of revenue through residential construction. I wondered if maybe at the next meeting or the meeting after that, if Harvey and Holly can put together a very 5-minute type thing. What's it look like out there for the development and building industry in the city of Goodyear? Are they selling their product, or are we getting a backlog similar to what we're getting in resales? Because it does affect us. We all agree if they do that. Okay, can you take that one on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. We have another meeting.
Yes, good.
And that's going to be on the CFD for King Ranch. And I think, can we go right to that? Does anybody need a break?
Yep.
Okay.